Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Ozzy. Once again, thank you for watching my YouTube videos. So as we have already learned, Officer Darren Wilson will not be indicted for any charges for the death of Michael Brown. And as I saw and people around the world saw, there was rioting, looting, burning in Ferguson, Missouri. Um, I was watching since when they announced that they were going to charge Darren Wilson till maybe about midnight, 1 o'clock that night. And of course, we saw a lot of people rioting, looting. There was cars that were on fire, buildings that were on fire as well. The actual store where Michael Brown allegedly strongholded that store was also looted. And just several buildings down that block were looted and burned down. We all kind of knew this was coming. It was just something waiting to happen. And I took a little time off to kind of hear a bunch of the media talking, people on Twitter, people on Facebook, asking people that I know what they thought about it, things like that. So I kind of waited and wanted to make this video to kind of see just to put everybody's opinions together and just to kind of form my own opinion. And I know the other day Darren Wilson actually came out and had a interview, and during this interview they've asked him his side of the story. And he had said when he had confronted Michael Brown, he asked him, hey, come on over here. And that Michael Brown's response to Darren Wilson was, what the fuck are you going to do about it? And that's when this whole confrontation happened, things like that. And during this interview, Darren Wilson said that Michael Brown came to his car, hit him on his right side, and that's when the whole struggle, when Darren Wilson said he pulled out his gun, told Michael Brown he was going to shoot him, and that Michael Brown actually grabbed Darren Wilson's gun, and that's when Darren Wilson said he pulled the trigger and nothing happened to the gun. So he pulled it 3 times. He said finally the shot went off, hit Michael Brown, and that's when Michael Brown actually took off running. And these are all Darren Wilson's words. I am going to post a video of that interview in the description below if you want to go ahead and see that interview. And he says after that happened, that Michael Brown actually ran away, and Darren Wilson said he called for backup. Darren Wilson said he feared for his life because Michael Brown actually hit him, and Darren Wilson said he was actually afraid that the next blow was gonna be a fatal blow to him because Michael Brown was such a big person. And like I said, Michael Brown, he's 6'2", 200 plus pounds, so he's a big man. And so he said that the final blow, he thought it was gonna be Darren Wilson's, like a fatal blow, according to Officer Darren Wilson. And after they released a bunch of the stuff, they actually released photos of Darren Wilson's his face, and you can see on his right side of his cheek, it was a little bit of pink, and he had a little bit of pink on the back of his neck. And I just found that interview to be very suspect with Darren Wilson. He said he was struck on the right side of his face while he was in the car. So if you really think about it, you're sitting in the driver's side of a car, somebody comes in and punches you. How that's it's kind of hard, but it's possible. So it was just a bunch, the interview was just, it was just very, I found it very suspect, and I still question that. And I question the prosecutor as well, that he, a lot of people in Ferguson, Missouri actually wanted this prosecutor off the case because he was very pro-cop. And to me, during the case, it showed a lot that this prosecutor was in fact pro-cop. He didn't ask Darren Wilson any questions, pressing Darren Wilson to kind of, hey, well, it doesn't make sense, this doesn't make sense, what's going on, things like that. And so that's what made the whole case suspect. And I still believe Darren Wilson should have brought up on some kind of charges, not necessarily murder charges, because I don't believe Officer Darren Wilson intended to kill Michael Brown intentionally. That's what murder is. You know, you see this guy, hey, I'm gonna fucking go and kill this guy. You go over there and you shoot him. That's murder. And I don't believe he actually intended to kill Michael Brown. But I honestly believe Darren Wilson started the incident for this reason. The media has not come out and said it, but I know there were some articles that I have read, and a lot of people thought Darren Wilson was actually responding to the call that Michael Brown was strong-holding this store when he stole the cigars. But in fact, Darren Wilson was not responding to that call. In fact, Darren Wilson he stopped Michael Brown and his friend because they were crossing the street. Now, like I said in my previous video, where is that a crime? If I walk across the street, that gives an officer no right to stop me for simply walking across the street. So if that is the case, why did Darren Wilson stop him? He wasn't breaking a law by walking across the street. That's not a law enough to stop somebody. So I think in that case, Darren Wilson started, because if Darren Wilson did not stop Michael Brown for simply walking across the street, this whole incident would not have happened. Now, anyways, and that's really my beef that I have with Darren Wilson, and why the prosecution didn't push this on him. Why did you stop him? Because he was walking across the street? That is not a crime. Why did you stop him? A police officer need to have a legal right to stop you, period. So, with that being said, I know that they were saying that this is not the end of it, that in fact Darren Wilson can actually face federal charges of civil rights violation. So, in that thing, I believe Michael Brown's civil rights were violated, because you or me can walk anywhere in these United States and a cop cannot stop us simply because we're walking. If I'm walking down the street, a cop can't pull me over and say, hey, come over here, show me your ID. They can't. It's against the law. I am free to walk down the street in America without being bothered. This is not communist Russia. This is not... We are allowed to do that. So of course, after the announcement, like I said, there was rioting, things like that. I have said it in my YouTube videos before, and I will say it again. I am not for rioting and looting and burning down buildings. These are people's buildings. These are people's property that they have a business, and they're trying to make money for their family. So who the fuck are you to come to burn down my shit because of what the police did or the prosecutor did or didn't do and things like that? That's my well-being. That's what I make to feed my family. So in that case, I don't condone any of that violence, but I get the reasons for them being angry. That a lot of these people thought that that Darren Wilson was going to be brought up on charges, and of course we all know that didn't happen, and these people were angry. So they felt like there was no other choice but to riot and to loot and to burn down buildings, to flip over cars and things like that. So they that's what they felt. They felt they had no other choice but to do that. And it was just it was just surreal to watch it. And there was one event I was watching, I think it was CNN, and Don Lemon was there, and Chris Cuomo, they were there, and right behind them there was some police vehicles, and right behind them there was the fire department. And there was actually a woman that had collapsed, where they said it was a heart attack, whatever. She was just having some kind of health issues, and people had actually picked her up and was taking her towards the police officers to get medical attention. And when these people were actually doing that, the officers shot tear gas at these people, and that was fucked up. Why would you do that when you're trying to get these people help and they're shooting at them? And that's what the media was. It was just wrong what was going on. I get it. It's not their right to loot. I get it. Like I said, it's not right. But the police officers are there to help us. The National Guard is there to help us, not to hurt us. They're there to pick me up when I'm hurt, get me water, get me medical attention, whatever it is that they need to do to help us, not to hurt or harm us. And yes, there were gunshots ringing out, with live TV, gunshots, you can hear semi-automatic pistols going off. I even heard semi-automatic rifles going off and things like that, which is not right, for them to do. But then again, it happened. So, of course, the police are going to respond, to the best of their abilities and things like that. I get it. But also what the media did not show, there were people actually telling the looters and the rioters, why are you doing this? Get the fuck away. These are our people. Why are you doing this to our people? And actually, if you want to go onto YouTube and stuff, there was actually even gang members protecting businesses and things like that. And that's not what the media wasn't showing. That they were just showing just the angry side, the ugly side of the spectrum, and they weren't showing the full thing. And and I know yesterday night there was still rioting and things like that. There was protesting in New York, Chicago, LA, all across the United States. There was protesting on the for the death of Michael Brown, and plus the ruling that they weren't going to indict Officer Darren Wilson. That's the way it was supposed to be, a peaceful protest, to where you can walk down the street, shout, scream, yell, whatever it is that you want to, in a peaceful manner. But quite frankly, like I said, these people were tired of it. These people were upset, and it goes back to 100, 200 years ago of all this. And a lot of people I was reading on Facebook and Twitter, all these fucking black people need to get over it, blah, 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 blah. Just hateful words coming out of these people's mouth. Like I said before, is that, they're tired and they're frustrated, of blacks being shot in the middle of the street. There's videos of this stuff. Of course, there wasn't video of Michael Brown, but there's videos of blacks being gunned down in the middle of the street by police for doing nothing, and yet these officers don't get brought up on charges. And that's what it mostly boils down to, is that the majority of that's happening is to blacks. And you got to understand this. Shit like this does not happen in white community suburbs. It does not happen. When was the last time you heard of an officer responding to a call in a white suburb area and gunning down a white youth? It doesn't happen. Then that's why a lot of people say, oh, well, they're just blowing out of proportion. Because it happens in the hood. It happens in the ghetto. It happens there. It doesn't happen in white populated areas like that. It doesn't happen. When was the last time you heard it? Put it in the link below. When is the last time it happened? I don't know about it. I've never heard. And I'm 25 years old. I've never heard of it. And that's what we got to understand, is that they're angry, and we got to really think about it and stop talking about it that it's black and white, Latino, stuff like that. There is no racial anymore in the United States. There's rich and then there's poor, period. That's really what it boils down to, is rich and poor. Like, in me, an example, I'm not a rich person at all, so I'm a poor person. So, I have in common with more poor, white, black people than I do with rich Latinos. And that's just the things that we got to understand, that it's not black and white anymore. It's rich and it's poor. And, and I've heard, about that we need to heal from this. We need to move forward from it. And I get it. We do need to move forward from it. But without justice, how are we going to move forward without justice? That's the thing, is that if we've had justice, then we could move forward from this. And that's really what, why these people are angry, and myself is angry. That's because there is no justice. Where is the justice? And a lot of the evidence, it doesn't point to where Darren Wilson was in the right. Michael Brown's body was found 100 and some odd yards away from his car. And that contradicts Darren Wilson's testimony. And why wasn't that pointed out? Why wasn't this prosecutor said, hey, Darren Wilson, I get what you're saying, but his body was found 100 and some odd yards away from your car. So what you just told me, how could that be? It's incorrect what you just told me. It was just things like that a lot of people were angry. I was angry about, because I've been following this since the beginning. You know, a lot of his story doesn't corroborate with the evidence shown, and yet this man was still allowed not to be punished. Because if it was me, you know, I would have already been in jail. I've already been indicted. All this stuff, it would have already been taken over. But in fact, that this is a police officer, not because he's white. It has nothing to do with race. It's because he's a police officer. Police officers are getting away with this. And don't get me wrong. Listen to what I'm about to say. Not all police officers are bad. I have friends and family that are police officers, and they're great people. They are great human beings, great officers, and so I don't believe that all officers are bad. You know, there are some. There's bad apples in every organization, and it's just the fact that these good officers protect the bad officers that piss a lot of people off. Where is the accountability when it comes to the police officers? Where is the accountability? When it's you and me, you know, I get locked up for whatever reason. You know, I have to bail myself out. I have to get myself an attorney. You know, I have to go through months and months, maybe even years of trials and stuff like that in order for this case to be dropped or for me to go to jail or whatever. When it comes to a police officer, like in this situation, you know, he gets administrative leave with pay, and that's it. You know, he should be just like me, just like you, get locked up, have to bail out with his own money, and things like that. You know, it's not fair that these police officers get treated differently. Because they are no different from me and you. Because they serve and protect us, not the other way around. So that's where a lot of people have, you know, these things when it comes to the police. It's not just the fact that this kid was killed, you know, blah blah blah. It's not that. It's a mixture of things. And it's like I've said it in my previous video. I had told my uncle one time. I said, Theo, and my uncle, he's a law-abiding citizen. He's been working for many years. You know, good man. He's never been arrested and things like that. And I've asked him. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, if a police officer pulls up right behind you, you're not doing anything. How do you feel? And he told me, I feel scared. I don't feel, you know, safe. And I'm going to ask you guys the same question. How do you feel when you're driving and a police officer pulls behind you? I'm not telling you to feel scared. The media's not telling you to feel scared. Why do you feel scared? Why do you feel threatened by a police officer when he pulls up behind you? It is because what you've seen in the media is what you've seen with your own two eyes and what you've experienced in life. That's why. You know, it's plain and simple. Really think about it. How do you feel? And that's the whole point about it, is that we're supposed to feel safe when I see a police officer. You know, when a police officer feels behind me, I'm supposed to feel the safest that I've ever felt, because the police officer is behind me. If something happens, that police officer is there to protect me. So yeah, it's just a lot of, you know, like I said, you know, it was really ugly what's been happening in Ferguson. You know, and you know, and I do understand their frustrations, you know, and things like that. But you know, to be honest and things like this, you know, when it came to Darren Wilson, you know, shooting Michael Brown, if he felt threatened, you know, who am I to say that this officer felt threatened or not? You know, I can't say that. You can't say that. You know, an example, it's me and it's you standing side by side. A man approaches us and he says, hey, what the fuck are you guys looking at? I might feel scared. You might not feel scared. So therefore, who are you to tell me, hey, dude, don't feel scared, man? But I'm scared. Well, I'm not scared. Well, that's it. We're totally different people. I could be scared in that situation. You couldn't. It doesn't matter. We're totally different people. So we're going to feel scared or might not feel scared. We're different people. So if this officer felt scared enough that his life was being threatened, like he said, you know, why pursue after Michael Brown? When Michael Brown hit him in the face, grabbed his gun, things like that, and after Michael Brown took off after being shot, why, if you felt threatened for your life, why pursue after this individual? He called for backup. Why not just stay in the vehicle until backup is being called? You're perfectly safe in your vehicle. You have your sidearm out, with you, whatever. Why pursue him if you absolutely feared for your life? That's another question that I have for Officer Darren Wilson, and if he watches this video, I want to know. And that's just my thing. If I was here in my house, somebody broke down my door, I shot at him, I'm scared. Why am I going to pursue him any further? The threat's already gone. He ran out the door. If I felt threatened. Now, if I didn't feel threatened, then I would pursue, and pursue this person down. But if he is already gone and running away, the threat is no longer there. So that's just my beef that I have with Officer Darren Wilson. Why did you pursue him any further if you were in fact scared for your life because of this man hitting you, grabbing your gun, and things like that? Why not just wait for backup to arrive? But, he made his decisions, which were his decisions, and, now we all see what's going on after that. Now another beef that I have with this whole thing is that Michael's brown body was left in the heat for 4.5 hours. They didn't cover his body, they didn't. It was just left in the fucking street like a dog. That's another thing that I have a problem with, is that they left his body out there, basically in the heat to rot. It was just a lot of things that I know that the officers did wrong. And of course, if they knew what happened, they would have done everything differently. And, we all have to learn from this. The officers have to learn from this, is that, we're all being watched, period. No matter what you do, we're all being watched. There's cameras everywhere. There's cameras in our phones. There's cameras in our webcams. There's cameras everywhere. We're always being watched. And with Facebook and Twitter and all these things, we find out news a lot quicker than it was, years ago when I was a kid. And so we just always got to be careful what we do. And I know during this whole indictment of Officer Darren Wilson, there was another video that surfaced of it was supposedly supposed to be Darren Wilson. He was at a person's home, and this person was filming Officer Darren Wilson. And in this video, Officer Darren Wilson told the citizen, "Hey, I could arrest you for filming me." Which in fact, you cannot get arrested for filming an officer, because an officer is a public servant. So therefore, we have every right to film a public servant, whether they're on or off your property. We have every right to film them. And in fact, I urge everybody who is in contact with law enforcement to film law enforcement. So therefore, it covers your ass if anything happens, and it covers their ass for anything. So that's why a lot of people are telling the police that they want to have body cameras and things like that. And I think it's a good idea, and it's not a good idea because malfunctions could happen in a lot of cases. So that's why I really do urge people, if you do come in contact with law enforcement, record law enforcement. So if anything was to happen, you cover your ass. If the officer says, "Hey, you did this, you said that to me," which in fact you didn't, you have video evidence, and video evidence is video evidence. So yeah, there's just a bunch of stuff that people are wanting to do to change, with law enforcement when it comes to civilians. So I watched that video of Officer Darren Wilson. And of course, the only picture that I've ever seen of Officer Darren Wilson is the one that, we've all seen of him in his uniform getting an award, things like that. I have never seen, or, I've never heard his voice. The only voice I heard when he had that interview with George Stephanopoulos. And when I saw that interview, to me, it's Officer Darren Wilson in this video. Now, the police chief and all they couldn't confirm whether it was or was not Officer Darren Wilson in that video, because they released saying that in fact that when the officer told this person that he could be arrested for filming the cop was wrong, that it was unprofessional of him to say that, because they know in fact you cannot be arrested for filming police. But my thing is this: when you get a call, and I don't know this 100%, but it's kind of in my head anyways, if there's any law enforcement officers watching this video, I want you to answer this question for me if you can. When you get a call, whatever call it is, disturbing the peace, you respond to it. There's a call that's generated saying, hey, Officer Ozzy is responding to such and such call. When I get to the scene and this person is arrested for whatever crime it is, the arresting officer makes a report of what happened. So therefore it's logged saying that Officer Ozzy arrested such and such person for such and such crime. This is what happened. So you're telling me that the police chief cannot go into his files. Of course, it has a date where it was when this film was shot, to see who responded to the call. They don't want to do that because we all know it. I know that it was Darren Wilson. And you ask, what does it matter if it was or was not Darren Wilson? Well, this is the fact. Is that everybody was saying, oh, well, Michael Brown was a thug, he was a gangster, he broke the law by doing this and this and that. Well, in fact, if this video is of Officer Darren Wilson, and I think it is of Officer Darren Wilson, it shows that he has history of violating citizen civil rights. Plain and simple. That's what it's showing me. That's what this video is telling me. That this officer has in the past violated people's civil rights. So I believe with this case with Michael Brown that he did in fact violate Michael Brown's civil rights by stopping him for simply walking across the street, which is not a crime in the United States. Excuse me. Now you can say, oh, well, jaywalking's a crime. But come on, really? It was a neighborhood. We walk across the street all the time. I walk across the street of my neighborhood all the time. I have never been pulled over, stopped for simply walking across my neighborhood, to the other street. So that's why we gotta know is that if in fact this videotape was of Officer Darren Wilson, then he has in the past violated citizen civil rights. By threatening the citizen of arrest because he is in fact filming Officer Darren Wilson. So his integrity is now being challenged. And that's what I'm saying. Why wasn't this video introduced into evidence when it came to this court case with Michael Brown? It's simple. If you wanna attack Michael Brown, which is dead, he cannot talk and say, hey, in fact, I'm not a bad guy, blah blah blah, because he's dead. He can't talk. You need to attack Darren Wilson and say, hey, this is the video of you. Well, in fact, it's not me. Well, here's the evidence. This is the call log that says that, yes, in fact, you did respond to this call. You did arrest this citizen for... He got arrested for something else. It wasn't for filming the officer. And show him, hey, you just lied under oath. It is you. And things like that to get, it's simple. I'm not even a lawyer. And you might say, oh, well, who are you? You're not a lawyer, blah, blah, blah. It's simple. I've read laws. I'm not a lawyer. But, I've read up. I'm not stupid when it comes to law because I know an officer can't fuck me because I do know the laws. It's just very simple things that were not handled. And that's what a lot of people were upset. A lot of lawyers and attorneys that came out on MSNBC, CNN, all these news channels, I saw on YouTube, they were just saying, hey, how come this wasn't going on? How come this didn't happen? And it just makes perfect sense. And that's why, a lot of people were upset, and I'm still upset how way they handled this case. Is that Darren Wilson was not asked hard questions like other people would have been asked in other cases. So that's why a lot of people were upset and things like that. So, we'll see what happened. Like I said, they have already said that the federal government is going to come in and they're going to put charges on Darren Wilson for violating civil rights. So they're basically saying he's guilty of violating Michael Brown's civil rights. So why was he not brought up on any charges? And it's still upsetting, that he was not brought up on any charges. I'm not saying to bring him up on murder charges because I don't believe he was guilty of murder. Because, to back Darren Wilson up if I was in his shoes and I was in my vehicle, things like that, and I felt my life was threatened, of course, I would never want to kill somebody. But if my life was being threatened, I'm gonna do everything I can to survive and to neutralize the threat. And like I've said in my previous YouTube videos, I do own weapons. I do own a firearm. I own an AR-15. And, so yes, I will do anything in my power to protect myself and my family. And that includes killing somebody who is threatening the life of myself and my family. So I can understand where Darren Wilson was from when he felt that his life was threatened. Yes, you feel your life is being threatened. You have a firearm or a knife, a bat. Use it to protect yourself, period. Plain and simple. You feel your life is threatened, whatever weapon you have, use it to protect yourself. But like I said, just all these evidence that has come out, I think, like I said, I'm going to post that video of him talking with George Stephanopoulos in the description. I want you to go ahead and watch it. Watch Darren Wilson's body language. Watch his eyes. Watch his head movement. Watch his, everything. Watch his body movement, and just listen to what he's saying and look at the evidence that has been presented to us. And really form your own opinion. And like I said, comment below. Let me know what you think. What is your opinion? Do you think he should have been indicted? And what do you think? That's what I want to know. It's not only just my opinion. I do want to know your guys' opinion. But those are my opinion on it. Like I said, I do believe Darren Wilson should have been brought up on some kind of charges. Like I said, I don't think he should have been indicted for murder because I don't think he actually murdered Michael Brown. He didn't intend to kill him. But, with the events happen, of course, he did have to defend himself, and and of course he caused the death of Michael Brown. But like I said, with all the evidence and his interview, the pictures that was taken of him, I don't believe his life was threatened to that fact to where he felt so compelled to put him down like he did. It just didn't match up. Like I said, I'm gonna put the video below. I'm going to put some evidence on the, what was released and things like that. And I want you to do your own research and look at it, compare and contrast and see what you think. Call me a bullshitter, whatever you think, your opinion is on. Go ahead and comment below like I am. Like I said, I'm very interested in it, in your opinion, and, we'll go from there and see what happens. Like I said, I'm going to wait to see what other evidence comes out, see if they do in fact, try and pursue civil rights violations on Darren Wilson. If his family is gonna actually, if Michael Brown's family is actually gonna sue the city, we don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, this is not over yet for a long shot. Like I said, I'll continue touching on this case. Like I said, as soon as more things come about, and we'll go from there. But I appreciate you guys watching my videos. I really do appreciate you watching my previous videos. I know I got like 100 and some odd views, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys looking at my videos. And like I said, I'm gonna put more videos as things come along. But I appreciate you guys. Subscribe, like that button, comment below. Let me know what you guys think. I appreciate it. Thank you.